Pretty exciting, right? We've spent the last year talking to localization professionals in 13 cities around the world. Most of these teams are already using AI in production. So they're not asking, we're not sure about AI. They're already using it. Content continues to grow faster than human capacity. In fact, in the Smartling platform, we've seen AI translation grow 218% in 2015 alone. The conversation has really shifted. Quality gates are becoming a requirement, not an afterthought. Governance questions are showing up earlier in the buying process. Which models touch my content? What changes were made to my content? Who's accountable? What does the audit trail look like? Especially in regulated industries. These are not nice to haves anymore. The bottom line, buyers are committed to AI translation, but now they're asking, can I trust it? Can I ship it? That's exactly what we're about to talk about today. I'm Andrew Saxe, VP of Product, and I'm joined by Olga Beregovaya, VP of AI. Let's get into it. So our vision really is quality you can trust. We're building the AI translation platform that delivers that quality. It's the design principle behind everything we're going to show you today. So as we think about our platform and as we think about our roadmap, we've been really asking the fundamental question, what does it take to deliver AI translation? What can enterprise teams trust and rely on? And not just a fast translation, not just a cheap translation. Ryan said a few minutes ago in the previous session, speed without quality is a trap. That's so true. Translation that's accurate, on brand, measurable, and defensible. So let's talk about the 7 pillars of how that all comes together. We need quality you can prove, not just quality you believe in, not quality with a score and an audit trail behind it, quality you can believe in. You need governance built in from the start, because in regulated industries and large enterprises, every translation decision needs to be logged and accountable. You need AI agents working together across the workflow, so nothing falls through the cracks between steps. You need speed, real speed, AI speed, translation happening in the moment, in the tool, without cues. You need a system that gets better over time, that compounds with quality, where every human edit makes the next translation smarter and better. You need openness, the ability to bring your own team, your own models, your own linguists, your own keys, your own vendors, your own data. And you need translation to happen where your teams are actually working, not in a separate platform or a separate workflow where they have to context switch. Everything we're going to show you today is built on these 7 things. Let me show you what we're talking about. So we did this roadshow and we kept hearing from our customers over and over again. And it's not things like they're not questioning about using AI translation. Most teams already are. They're really wondering, how do we know if it's good? Is it good, but it's just hiding the errors? Are we getting the consistency across our teams, across our brands? How are we able to scale to more languages without everything just completely falling apart? And that's what's happening in the market right now. Translation volume is exploding, but visibility into the output, the AI output, the quality of the output is 0. And if you want a human to review it today, you're looking at days to weeks. It's really expensive. We believe quality is the next frontier in AI translation. And we really believe that it starts at every layer. It's not about just bolting on a QA step at the end. It's about starting at every step and every stage. When you're choosing the model, when you're producing the translation, when you're delivering the translation, when you're evaluating the translation, quality is built in, it's automatic, not bolted on. Olga, let's show them how this actually works.
Okay, sure. So as Andrew just said, quality is on every step. And let's look at quality that starts before translation even begins. Quality cannot be an afterthought. And what is the best way of ensuring that that right quality will be delivered throughout the process, throughout the delivery process? Yes, plugging in all the best linguistic assets that you've accumulated over the time, even before the translation process begins. Yes, we will pick the best large language model for you, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, or the best translation engine. But most importantly, it will be combined with your brand voice as it's manifested throughout your linguistic assets, be it translation memories, glossaries, and style guides. Everything is already applied, and we're off to a great start. Now, I said that we will select the best model for you, and you probably heard me say we'll select the best LLM for you. And why so? So a little bit of ride back in time, 2019. But even before 2019, what happened in 2017? Right. Google Research published that famous paper that's considered the most pivotal point in the history of AI to date, paper called Attention is All You Need, which introduced the next generation of translation transformer models. So 2 years in, our research team collecting the data from 2 years of performance of the best neural machine translation engines came to the conclusion that not all of neural machine translations are actually performing equally. Even though neural machine translation was absolutely superior leap from statistical, let alone rule-based, even then, their performance for different content types and language combinations was very uneven, right? Because you have different teams, you have different data sets, there are so many different things that go into different models. So we built AutoSelect MT for machine translation, and you can see the engines that were included and still are included in the MT flavor of AutoSelect. You would have your usual suspects such as Amazon Translate and Microsoft Translator and Google Translate. And then you would also have DeepL, and you would have some smaller engines that specialize in specific languages, such as, for instance, ProMT for Slavic languages, or Systron, which is one of the oldest engines in the world that started as rule-based and then progressed to hybrid. So watching it for 6 years, come 2025, we start hearing anecdotally that, hey, looks like large language models are actually outperforming NMT for translation. But we are a data-driven organization. We don't operate on anecdotal evidence. So look how we approached it. 74 models across 19 languages and 6 verticals. Now, let me talk a little bit about the languages. 19 languages obviously cannot belong to one language family. And it is indeed the fact. The 19 languages represent different language families and distinctly different language families, because what is true for Brazilian Portuguese is just not going to be true for Indic languages or Finno-Ugric languages. Now, when we look at verticals, same is true for verticals. Right? What would work for retail is highly, highly unlikely to work for heavy machinery. So the data set was curated very, very carefully with all those different scenarios in mind, because obviously all of us come from different ways of life and different ways of talking about things, even more so in different languages. And the results are that 97% of time, large language model wins, and we listen and act. And this is why we're proudly introducing AutoSelect LLM that follows the same logic, using machine learning behind the scenes to pick the best engine for a specific language combination. This model is not static. This model is recalibrated dynamically because there is content drift, there is model drift, the model performs certain way months 1, but performs differently months 2. So it is the same logic, except now we're presenting to you the best in class large language model. And you can see at the large language model portfolio, you have Anthropic family, you have models that are accessible through Amazon Bedrock, you have OpenAI, you have the best models, the best state-of-the-art models that exist. You look at AutoSelect LLM, it is extremely easy to set up, and you can see here's a screenshot to the right that shows you how easy it is, like really just to set up the LLM profile. And AutoSelect LLM will deliver the best model behind the scenes. It's already selected and managed for you and will apply to every translation. Now, let's look at, there are 3 check marks at the bottom, and we'll talk about them in a second. I'll just mention one thing. 60% improvement in TER over neural machine translation is huge, right? We all know that TER improvement, I mean, you're lucky if you get 5, 10 points, and we're talking about 60% improvement. So that dramatic outperformance is definitely there. Now, even if you've picked the best model, like say you grab model API and think you call it a day, not quite the case. You really want the model behavior to be informed by your linguistic assets. And both Andrew and I have already touched on the importance of quality throughout the process. So your linguistic assets are of high quality, right? They've been curated, they've been published, they've been human vetted. So here comes in-platform retrieval augmented generation often referred to as RAG, abbreviated as RAG. And what is it? It informs the model with the assets that are relevant to a specific translation. In this case, it pulls from your translation memories, glossaries, and style guides, and delivers on-brand translation that's relevant and that's improving with every committed string. Just like translation memory, you commit a string to translation memory, and next thing you know, the next similar translation is able, or identical translation is able to reuse it. Now, same thing is true in your RAG universe. You've committed the string to the TM, and next translation obviously is going to be better because it will already be fetching from this translation. And you can again see the screenshots to the right of different linguistic assets that feed into the RAG process. Now, we've spoken about translation memories, we've spoken about glossaries, but we only mentioned style in passing. But style rules are extremely important because this is the face of your brand in different geos and different locales. And style rules are one of the three things that teach AI to speak your language, teaches AI and humans to speak your language. If you don't have the style rules, if you don't have established style rules, every translator can introduce their own opinion or their own view of what things should be translated like in the specific language. And even less so is it scalable now in the age of AI. It can cause huge brand problems with the avalanche of content that is produced with AI. So AI is your best, most prolific, and most predictable translator. And let us see what we do about it. New feature, style rules for AI. Those of us that have been around, been in the industry for a while, or maybe it's still the case now, we've all seen those flat PDFs of 40 pages and multiple chapters that are even hard for humans to interpret, and imagine how difficult it would be for a machine to interpret and summarize them. So why not generate style rules that are specific for AI that contain all the local details that would make translation feel native to a specific language and specific locale? Now, you only specify those style rules once, and then they will be applied throughout your delivery process automatically. And again, you can see an example of what it looks like in production. We threw in a couple of examples of what stylistic preferences can look like for instance, representation of a date. Abbreviation, do you want to expand your abbreviation? Do you want to transliterate it? And we picked abbreviation, actually, it was my personal pick because they're notoriously difficult to handle for machines because machines don't know what to do with abbreviations. Or, for instance, even such a simple thing as a phone number convention. If you see it not in what you're used to in your locale, and if it doesn't align with how your brand wanted to be represented, obviously it doesn't look very professional. So we've spoken about style rules. Style rules will inform your translation, but let's think about the difference between translation and localization. Is translated the same thing as localized? Not necessarily. Many of us come from different countries and speak different languages, and we always can see when the content was not created specifically for us. And it becomes even more apparent now when the concept of hyper-personalization is an omnipresent concept. We really want the content catered to us. And if regional nuances such as tone, idiomatic expressions, sociolinguistic phenomena, cultural context, if it's not captured, it just gets lost and you lose your audience, right? And people have been aware of it for a long time, and the industry has been aware of it for a long time. So what has been done? You translate from scratch for a specific locale, and that can be extremely costly. And we can use examples like going between Brazilian Portuguese and vice versa, Spanish, going between Latin American Spanish and Castilian, or think of all the flavors of English that exist out there, right? US, UK, Australian English, New Zealand English, South African English. That's very costly. So let's see what we've done about that one. Language adaptation. That's a feature that we're excited about all of our features, but that's one new feature that we're very, very excited about. Language adaptation, where you can really touch your new markets in hours without having to retranslate from scratch. The underlying technology is, again, RAG-informed prompting. And The underlying technology is RAG-informed prompting. And again, as you can see, it is extremely easy to set up. And I say RAG, and again, I mentioned, pay attention to those radio button check marks at the bottom. You can see that your linguistic assets are, again, at play in our language adaptation process. So, Andrew, now when we've spoken about delivering best first translation, tell us what happens next.
Yeah, thank you, Olga. So we've talked about building in quality before the translation process starts. So selecting the right model, the right provider, and constantly benchmarking and comparing those models over time. So you're always making the best selection. We have auto select LLM for that. We take the question out of having to find and constantly tune the best model. We talked about style rules and language adaptation, and RAG, which influences the quality of the translation while the translation is being generated. But how do you know if it's good quality? Quality you can't measure is quality you can't prove, and really quality you can't trust. And in enterprise environments, being able to prove quality is almost just as important as having quality, is having good quality. And that's what we're going to talk about now. So as translation has scaled, AI translation has scaled, and it's scaled incredibly quickly, the tools to measure and govern those translations really haven't changed a lot. They haven't kept up. A lot of our customers and people in the industry look at AI translations like, it looks right, but it isn't, or maybe there's no visibility and they can't understand if quality is hitting the bar that they expect. There's no consistency across their teams or brands as using the right terminology. LLMs are always going to return something, and hopefully it's returning something that you want and expect, but there are those cases where it's not, and you need to be able to understand and find out the quality of the translations as they're being generated. And as you measure and understand the quality, it also has to be at AI speed and scale. So today we're also introducing LQA Agent. So LQA Agent gives you a quality score on every translation job instantly without having to wait for human review. It's about 90% accurate. We have human agreement. We've been testing this and using it internally for over a year. And we have human agreement 90% of the time that the LQA agent did find an error. And 99% of the time, the LQA agent found the critical and severe errors. So 99% of the time, those critical and severe errors are getting caught by the LQ agent. That's pretty outstanding. And although we agree 90% of the time with humans, humans really disagree with each other at about 70% or 80%. So the LQA agent is performing even better than humans. Our agent is more consistent. It uses the same framework every time, every string, without fatigue, without variation. The consistency is actually the point. That said, there are absolutely times when you might want to have a human involved and making that final call. High stakes content, a new marketing campaign, regulated industries, anything where the consequences are real. The LQA agent isn't trying to replace human judgment. It's trying to make your humans dramatically more efficient, really only having to review the content that needs review, not having to review everything. And here's what that looks like in practice. Instead of opening up a job and reading every string from beginning to end, your reviewer opens up a job where the LQA agent has already done the first pass. It's flagged the errors, it's given the severity, it's found the type, and it also has given commentary. It actually writes out information about why it thinks there is an error. So that specific reason, that specific annotation. So the reviewers are really spending their time on the content that really needs human attention, not the 80% that's already clean and ready to go. So you can also use LQA agent to really scale the LQA process without having humans involved at all. The LQA agent gives you real-time quality at the job level over and over again. You don't have to have a human involved. It can run on its own and give you those quality scores by language, by content type, by time period. You can find those critical errors, spot regression before it happens. You can see the content that needs attention, maybe the languages that need attention. And you can really prove that over time. You can see the trends, you can see how your language, content, your AI translations are improving. Now let's take a look at what this looks like.
Thanks, Andrew. As AI translation volumes grow, quality oversight hasn't kept pace. Manual LQA is too slow and too costly to scale, so most teams skip it. Errors compound quietly, and no one knows whether translation quality is improving or degrading over time. LQA Agent changes that. It monitors translation quality automatically, surfacing errors, flagging what needs human attention, and tracking trends over time at 90% the accuracy of a human reviewer at the speed and scale AI demands. Let's check it out. Here we have a completed translation job that's ready for LQA. All we need to do is make a new request to submit this job to our LQA project. You can create a new LQA job or use an existing one. The LQA project utilizes an LQA workflow that includes two unique steps. The first is the LQA agent step, which uses AI to do a first pass of LQA. The second step is the human LQA step so that a person can review and validate the results of the LQA agent. The LQA agent leverages an MQM schema, which acts as the rule set for how it should evaluate quality. This schema is customizable to your business needs. Here we are in our LQA project, and we can immediately see our list of LQA jobs. Clicking into our job, we can see the steps of our LQA workflow and where the content is in that workflow. Because the LQA agent step is an agentic AI step, it's already complete, and you can now look at the score and see how your translation process performed. This enables reviewers to work faster and at scale. Taking the perspective of the human reviewer, we open up the Smartling Cat tool and see the LQA results to the right of the translations, ready to be reviewed. Clicking into any of these errors shows the details of what the LQA agent has flagged based on the MQM schema. You can see the details of the error left by the LQA agent and can edit every aspect of the error, leave a comment, or add an additional manual error. Alternatively, the human reviewer could be empowered to edit the translation themselves with the adequate adjustment. Either way, LQA Agent streamlines the LQA process, saving both time and money. So there you have it. I've just shown you how Smartling's LQA agent can help your localization team assess translation quality faster and more consistently by automating the first pass of language quality assurance. It makes LQA easier to scale without compromising existing quality standards.
Yeah, so this is really an incredible feature. It's really a step forward in how we're going to assess quality and how customers can really understand quality in the translation process. We've been using it internally for over a year, so we know it works, and we're really excited about the outcomes that it's going to bring to customers. So we talked about selecting the right model and benchmarking models to generate the best translation. We've talked about influencing the translation through style rules and LM adaptation. And we talked about assessing and understanding the quality of a translation, really quality built into every layer of the translation process. But now let's talk about the other side, delivery. Because quality at AI speed really only matters if you're getting the translation back quickly in the hands of your teams in the tools they use without hassle and without friction. So today we're introducing instant AI translation. So right now, translation is a separate workflow. It goes through multiple steps. You get a cost estimate. In Smartling, you put it into a job, and it moves through this workflow. Maybe it goes through a human. It goes through the decision steps. It goes into all these various components that really adds up. Maybe it adds minutes. Maybe it adds days, depending on who might be involved in the workflow. It can slow things down. And when you're talking about how AI and LLMs work, they're always thinking. And when you're using ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever you're using, you ask it a question and it thinks for a little bit, the little icon moves around, and it eventually gives you a response. It's always going to respond with something, but it's going to think a little bit before it does that. So today, as we introduce AI translation, it's really about removing all these extra things that slows down the translation process. It's removing all the need for workflows. It's removing the need for jobs in Smartling. It's removing the cost estimates. It's removing all of these extra things, and it's optimizing the pipeline so we try to remove as much of the thinking part from the LLM as possible. So instant translation is available through our Instant API or MT API. It's available in Smartling MCP server. It's available in 6 or 7 connectors, including Figma and plugins, including Figma, WordPress, Drupal, AEM, Photoshop. It'll be available for the rest of our connectors by the end of 2026 throughout the year. This really, you can set it up in the platform, no context switching. It delivers the translation instantly using your TM, your glossary, your style guide. It's not generic AI output. It takes all of your brand guidelines into consideration, just as it would with any of the AI translation offerings from Smartling, every language instantly in your brand and high quality. Let's see how this looks like in Figma.
Thanks, Andrew. With LLMs now a standard part of how teams work, expectations for translation have changed. People don't want to leave their tools, create a job, and wait. They want translation to happen where the work is already happening, instantly and without sacrificing quality. That's exactly what instant AI translation delivers. Let's see it in action. Here we are in Figma, with content that's ready for translation. Right-click, open your plugins, and launch the Smartling Figma connector. Select the content you want translated and hit Next. Instead of pushing this through a job, select Instant Translation, choose your target languages, and submit. This isn't the instant translation you've used before. The existing option gives you fast MT output without governance or quality checks. Instant AI translation goes further. It automatically selects the best translation model for your content, runs an LQA pass to catch errors before anything ships, and applies your translation memory, glossary, and style rules. Close the dialog and your new language versions appear directly in Figma, ready for review. The same speed, high quality, on-brand translation, governed by the same standards as everything else on your Smartling platform, and it's available today.
Yeah, it's really exciting. We're excited to get this out to customers. The video's right. Instant translation has existed for years. MT translation has been around for many years, but this isn't generic machine translation. This is on brand. It's your translation. It's your AI translation on brand using all of your brand assets and linguistic assets that are in the platform and available instantly. As we talk about delivering instant translations and in the tools where people are working, MCP server, it's a bit of a technical term, but probably all of us are using MCP server at least a little bit right now. And basically, it's a way to plug third-party tools and applications into whatever LLM environment you're using. So maybe it's your cloud storage system, maybe it's your workflow management tool or your HR system, and being able to put those systems into Claude or ChatGPT and type to it and talk to it in questions and have those third-party platforms answer you. And Smartling has been supporting MCP server for almost a year, since last August or July or August. And it allows Smartling to exist where your teams are working in whatever LLM environment or whatever your LLM or its system your company and organization has set up. So you can go into Claude or ChatGPT and say, translate this document into French using Smartling, find this glossary, print out this glossary, get me the latest TM. All of these things are available through MCP server. It can be plugged directly into your AI environment where your teams are already working. And that's a different type of integration. It's a different type of connector. It's really infrastructure. And you want your teams and everyone throughout your organization to get the on-brand high-quality translation that you've curated and built and managed, and that AI translation will deliver. And that is how you use MCP server. You tell your organization, get a high quality on-brand translation from Smartling through MCP server. One note, we do have a new authentication system coming out for MCP server this summer. We'll be supporting OAuth. We know it's very important to customers, and it is coming very soon. One other aspect of just instant translation is our global delivery network. The global delivery network is a real-time delivery system of a website. It delivers the content as a customer, as a user is browsing the website in language. And it's automatic, it has less engineering effort, you don't have to do a manual push and pull, and with instant AI translation, you can have the best on-brand translation as your users are browsing your site. So really super exciting things as far as quickly and instantly delivering on-brand high-quality translations. So we have one more thing, and I will pass it over to Olga to tell everyone about it.
Great. Thank you, Andrew, and getting exponentially more and more excited. So last but not least, images. The world would have been so easy if the world of translation only consisted of text, but it does not. And images have notoriously been the hardest content to translate. Even if you have access to the source image, it still requires a lot of DTP work, and expensive DTP work. But what if you do not? What if all you have is a flat image that has already been rendered? What if all you have is a screenshot of UI that was taken by a designer and included in your materials? What if you do not have access to anything but the image on your hands, such as PNG or such as JPEG? All you can do is really recreate the image, and it's extremely expensive. Or maybe all you could do was expensive DTP work to recreate the image. And herewith, we are introducing a new feature that's going to be available to you in summer of this year, image translation. Andrew has spoken a lot about on-brand. The theme is, whether it's instant translation, translation wherever you work, on brand is what we help you deliver. And here, the image translation goes through exact same AI-powered workflow as all the other content types would. So all your linguistic assets, all your best translations, your vetted terminology, and your style guides, everything is at play. Now, if we look at the images themselves, look, we can do absolutely everything. You can resize your text box as needed. You can preserve the font if the font needs to be preserved, if that's a requirement. You can look at the same background, right? And actually, background turned out to be pretty challenging to nail. And you can also see that the images are of high quality and ready to be published. And let us see how it works.
Thank you, Olga. Smartling's image translation feature delivers something the market hasn't seen before: the ability to localize finalized images with translation quality you can actually trust, on-brand, accurate, and consistent with your existing linguistic assets. Let's check it out. Let's start with an image that's ready for translation. Typically, finalized flat images can't be translated in this form. You'd have to get source files with fonts and perform DTP. But Smartling is changing that. Simply drag and drop the images you want localized into the Smartling dashboard and select Request Translation. Give your translation job a name and select your target languages. Once everything looks good, you can authorize your translation job and choose the method of translation. In this instance, we're going to use Smartling's Auto-Select LLM option for fast, on-brand, high-quality translations. And here's what makes this different from any other image translation out there. The copy you see in these images isn't just machine translated, it's translated using your translation memory, glossaries, and linguistic assets. That means the text is on-brand, consistent, and held to the same quality bar as everything else you translate in Smartling. And just like that, we have a fully translated finalized image in language and on brand without the need for source files, fonts, or desktop publishing. And the best part is that this image translation feature is available today.
Exciting, right? So let me bring it back to where we started. 13 cities, 13 conversations with groups of our customers. And as Andrew mentioned earlier, the question is not anymore, shall we use AI for translation? It's a given. You should. and most probably you already are. The real question is, how can I know that the quality of my translation is there? How can I know that I can trust it? I do not speak the language. How can I know that I can ship it into the country? And this is what everything that we've shown you today is designed to answer. Your best linguistic assets are at play. We picked the best translation model for you. The translation is run through quality checks throughout the delivery process, and you can access your best translation in any environment wherever you work. So what is it? It is quality you can trust. And thank you very much.